Very good one.
And here we... Is it this one?
I don't know. Is it that one?
This one, right?
Yes.
It switches sides, so I got lost. Alright, go.
Today, I am here to give you the assurance that I have not forgotten you.
If we want to see the new evangelization become more than just jargon, if we want to see it grow legs and gain traction and change the
Everything
world, we have
about
got
this
to take
episode
seriously our responsibility
has
as
started off on a rocky path.
Maybe it's going to be good. Maybe that's what it means.
Maybe so. Maybe we're just
I
gonna
want
tank.
to propose to you that something that our
Very
world
possible.
is desperately in need of in the
Adam,
midst of this crisis.
so possible.
So possible.
Let's just pour the whiskey now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Masculinity.
If you want to be a good father, then bring your children to confession with you.
I can't get there unless I become a man of ascesis, a man of asceticism, a man of training.
A man not doing penance, a man not disciplined, is not a man.
You guys have upped your game.
You know what, guys? I gotta say,
your
I love this
game.
the concept of the show.
Warning.
Warning.
The Catholic Man Show is about to begin.
Is this thing on? Are we?
I hear you.
Are we
Yes.
recording?
Yes.
Okay.
Testing.
Testing 1 2. Good deal. Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. I'm Adam Inhan sitting here with David Niles, Juan Posada on the buttons, Jim Bo Baggins sitting here by the door. This has been a solid 3 tries at least getting this episode on. So either that means it's gonna be a good episode, or it means that we're just gonna tank.
Right, because like sometimes, you know, the devil tries to get in the way before you're about to do something really awesome. He'll like mess with your, kind of mess
Right.
with you, and that's a good sign. Other times you're just totally an idiot and are unprepared.
Or other
and
times,
just like
your guardian angel is trying to give you all the hints possible.
Right.
Of don't do this, don't do this.
this one, TBD.
Yeah, we'll see.
TBD.
But Father Donald Calloway did tell us whenever he was doing a bunch of interviews with the Champions of the Rosary, that book that he put out,
Yeah.
he said, without fail, about every other interview that he tried to do, there was technical issues.
Yeah.
And he knew there was some more things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. I actually do think that just like since we're on this note right here, the demons actually do have capabilities to mess with technology. Like I think that they can do that. Like they can mess with technology more than they can mess with nature, for instance. Not that they can't mess with nature. Like they can make it rain. That they can actually.
What's the nature of technology?
I mean like no, not that kind of nature. I mean like
like natural,
the
like
world,
like, okay,
right?
like the physical.
They actually can like make it rain, or some exorcists will tell you it is very common after they perform an exorcism for it to rain.
So the question is it demons of the air that is messing with the technology?
I don't know.
I don't either. We're speculating at this
And
point.
would a demon of the air have more authority over the rain? I don't know. Or would that be demons of the water? And like if you're a demon of the water, do you cease to like own the water if it's boiled?
Yeah, it evaporates.
It's
now
it's water
demon
vapor.
Of the steams.
Water vapor. Is it still water?
Man, I don't know.
Might still be water, but I don't know.
Yeah, this is above our pay grade.
You know what I do know is that Jesus owns everything.
Yes,
except sin. That was us.
But
we did that.
But he came to redeem us.
The one thing that we had all to ourselves.
But he came to
was the worst.
He came to redeem us.
He saved us.
He saved us. And that's the thing.
God be
so.
praised.
What is that saying that? Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's not recording on Cubase.
That's a Cubase error.
So we'll just keep rolling. Hit the OK button, and then we're just gonna keep going
and see if you can pick it back up. But that's all right.
Okay.
Okay. So
again, we're in the middle of the episode, and we're already getting technical issues.
Here we go.
So we're gonna talk. The reason why is because we're talking about Catholic voting this evening is what we're going to be talking about. But first, we like to welcome tradition on the Catholic Man Show. And
yes.
We hold tradition to a high esteem.
Uphold and perform tradition.
Yes. And if this is your first time listening, the first thing we do on the Catholic Man Show is open, review, and enjoy a manly beverage.
Yes.
Which this evening is a beverage that you picked out.
Yes.
It's WhistlePig 12-year.
The 12-year. Yes, WhistlePig 12-year.
And so it's the rye.
This is not. This is an expensive bottle.
Okay, but it is a rye.
It's a rye whiskey.
Okay.
WhistlePig, as far as I know, they're a rye distillery.
Okay.
They might make
enough.
other stuff, but certainly WhistlePig is known for making rye whiskey.
Okay.
So yes, this is the it's 12 years old, 86 proof, and what I like about it is that they spelled that out.
Nice.
86 proof.
Okay.
Aged in European casks.
Most of the WhistlePigs are stronger in alcohol content typically.
Yeah, but 86 proof. I mean, that's stronger than the average because like 80 proof's the base. So, but it's not that strong.
Mm-hmm.
For people who have never had rye whiskey is
aggressive.
It's aggressive. It's one of those drinks that you really test your manhood. Can you, some rye whiskey especially, if you're not getting really good rye whiskey, let's say it's a cheap rye whiskey, that's going to be one of those like, can you swallow it without making a face?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Rye whiskey does not have the honey, the buttery, like the gentle deliciousness of a lot of other bourbon. But rye whiskey is, I believe, an American tradition. And so this is really good rye whiskey right here. This bottle is $127.
Wow.
Okay, so
that's tough for me to spend that kind of money on a rye whiskey, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But
I wanted to try it.
Yeah.
Our friend Jim Finster, big WhistlePig fan. In fact, he sent us a bottle of WhistlePig. It was the 10-year, early on in the show.
Yeah.
And we haven't had another bottle since then.
Since then, yeah, you're right.
So Jim,
to the Finster.
Hey Finster.
Yeah, and he's coming to the
Campout.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So we're on the Lord's team,
the winning side.
So raise your glass and cheers to Jesus.
Cheers to Jesus.
So while
on the nose, it smells a lot like a rye whiskey.
It's very grain alcohol smell.
It smells like rubbing alcohol, or and that's what you kind of get with a rye.
There is there's a hint of like toasted caramel, like, but not a whole lot. It's pretty strong in the grain alcohol.
Yeah. But the reason why this one is so expensive, or what you get for paying a lot, is that this is so smooth.
For a rye whiskey.
Whiskey, yeah. Because
the thing about it is, though, it's a short finish.
It is kind of a short finish,
and that is very shocking for a rye whiskey because typically it's so aggressive at the finish that it lingers. But this is a very short finish for a rye.
Yeah. My first sip was kind of short. My second one was quite a bit longer.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll reevaluate as time goes.
And one thing to think about when you're tasting a whiskey is, what have you just been eating? Okay.
That's
so
true.
I will tell you, before I came over here, about an hour ago, I was eating these cream cheese mints. Mm-hmm. Cream cheese is basically, it's fat, super high in fat content. So if you, like for me, if you've just been eating cream cheese, your whole mouth is going to be coated in fat. And that is going to it's going to coat your tongue. It's going to prevent you from tasting and getting all the flavors. So just imagine taking a Pam spray and spraying it in your mouth. Whatever you taste is just going to go whoop right down. Right. And so none of that liquid, the flavors aren't going to linger in your mouth. Mm-hmm. And so that's just a tasting 101. In fact, this is why wine is paired with steak, because steak is also very fatty. Mm-hmm. You know how your first bite of steak is always the best? The steak is fresher, you're hungrier. But another reason is that your taste buds are not coated with fat. And as you eat steak, your taste buds get coated in a layer of fat, melted fat from the steak. And so the wine, the acidity in the wine actually helps cut that layer of fat, allowing you to keep tasting the steak more and more. So it's not just that the flavor of wine and the taste of beef go well together. They do, but there's really the wine is helping you enjoy your steak more as you continue to eat it.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're having our camp out is coming up. We're very excited about it. We're completely sold out. In fact, we're a little oversold, expecting that some of you guys will probably bail at the last minute. Please don't do that, by the way. If you are going to, let us know, but we have to buy food and all that kind of stuff, so it makes it very difficult on Juan and everybody else who's planning the camp out.
Yeah.
I know things come up, but
yeah.
Anyway, let us know if you're not planning on coming, because there's also guys who are wanting to come that we've shut it down to. But we're really excited about it. It's at Clear Creek Abbey. We've done this is this will be the 4th year at Clear Creek, so we're really excited. There's a lot of things that we're going to try to be doing. We need to get on some of that, by the way.
Yeah.
But that'll be a lot of fun.
My overall opinion is that this is not worth $126, $127.
No, it's not. Like, for me personally, I'm not a rye guy. I've said that before on the show several times.
I'm not either. I just wanted to give it a shot, because I've heard a lot about WhistlePig.
I like WhistlePig.
They have some other stuff that's really expensive, like $400, $600 for a bottle. It's like, I don't know, man.
It's a lot.
I'm not sure that there is a bottle of whiskey, and maybe if I had millions and millions of dollars, maybe I'd change my mind, because just like money wouldn't be as valuable to me. But there is there's no drink, there's no beverage in the world that's worth $600 to me.
Yeah. So when we get back, we're going to get into the man gear, but then we're going to probably jump into the topic pretty quick, would be my guess, because there's a lot to cover. We're going to talk about Catholic voting with a well-formed conscience. The key is well-formed conscience when we're voting.
Indeed.
So we'll be right back. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
I can't stop it. It's gonna go again.
Oh yeah, it's just probably gonna go.
What do I do?
Oh no, it's not.
You can't stop
no,
what?
It's just you're gonna have to hit it again on your on the pad to start it.
Remember it's coming from everything's coming from vMix, so you can't start recording on Cubase anymore.
Go to number 2 and then try it again.
Did you try to start it up again? Okay.
I mean, it's gonna work.
There you go.
Hopefully. Yeah, do that, because it'll be less editing for me.
Word.
Okay, let's keep going.
Let's do it.
It's late anyway.
It is, man. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan, Jim the bodyguard,
hoping that this
guarding the door, and
hoping
Juan
this
Posada.
episode actually makes it out to the public.
Yeah, I know.
Because, man, there's been a lot.
The thing about pipes is that they're needy. A pipe is a needy mistress. Is she not? Like a cigar.
Just keeps going.
You put the cigar down, you go hit a few golf shots, you come back, she's fine. Now, if you go away for too long, the cigar will go out. But a pipe, if you don't stay on it,
it's tough.
It feels, it kind of has a hissy fit. Like, I feel so neglected. I'm just gonna, whatever.
It's tough.
Yeah. Anyway, man gear for today is the shoe tree.
The shoe tree.
The shoe tree. Yes. Because I think this is something that people, I think a lot of men don't necessarily understand the importance of
I don't, because I don't have one.
Of a shoe tree. Yeah.
So enlighten me.
Okay.
I do know. Here's the one thing I know about them. You ready?
Tell me.
Outside of I know that it's better to them be made out of cedar.
Yes.
But the importance is to make sure you put them on right after you take your shoes off. That is, I know
is true.
That is like, you don't want to ideally you don't want to wait to take your shoes off and then wait an hour after you take your shoes off and then put them on. Obviously, I'm sure it probably helps still, but you want to put the shoe tree on immediately after you take your shoes off.
Correct.
And I'm assuming it's just to keep the form of the shoe, right?
Yes, that is correct. So let's first of all, a shoe tree is those it's like cedar inserts you put in your shoes when you're not wearing them.
Especially
they're not all made
formal
of cedar.
Shoes.
Yeah, but yeah, dress shoes.
Right.
I suppose there are people in the world who have some for their tennis shoes, but if you're putting shoe trees in a tennis shoe, then you don't understand the purpose of the shoe tree. Because shoe trees are for leather shoes. Specifically leather shoes, okay?
Okay.
So, for instance, let's say you have a nice pair of cowboy boots. If you don't have a pair of cowboy boots, I highly recommend
I have
getting a good pair of cowboy boots. I only have one, and my cowboy boots are medium. They're like mid-grade. I really want a pair of nice cowboy boots, but you might pay $500. And I understand that you can pay a lot more.
Yeah,
if you go get some Lacases or something, you're going to be paying thousands of dollars.
Sure.
Maybe $5,000. But that's, not something that every man needs.
You got to be prudent.
Right. Maybe if you have like a private jet, Lacases are going to be that's your speed.
Right.
But you don't want to wear cowboy boots. Now, if you're just talking about work boots, that's a different thing. But if we're talking about nice cowboy boots, you don't want to wear them on consecutive days. Okay, because
you'll stretch them out.
You need to let the leather dry out.
Okay.
Because when you wear shoes, leather shoes, whether it's cowboy boots or dress shoes, then just the moisture from your feet are wet. They're sweaty. The leather stretches out a little bit, and then when it dries out, it will shrink back. And so if you've ever had, I used to have a pair of loafers, penny loafers. And after about a year, they looked like house slippers. They just had flattened and just they had lost their form, all their shape.
Okay.
And typically when you wear dress shoes, I'm not now because my office still is not open, so I'm still working from home. But when I'm going into the office, I'm wearing a suit every day. So typically what happens to your dress shoes is you get a hole in the sole. The soles will wear out, right? But on these penny loafers, the soles were still fine, but the shoes just looked terrible. They looked like crap. Just because it really looked like I was wearing leather house shoes. And that was just because I was wearing them all the time, and I wasn't taking care of them. Right. Yeah. So just like you're not supposed to get your leather shoes wet. Well, when you wear them, they absorb moisture.
What happens when a cow gets wet?
It dries off. It's not dead yet, though. That's the big difference.
That was a terrible, terrible joke.
I know. Adam, I know.
Yeah. I didn't even have to tell you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so for your shoes, you want to put the shoe tree in for two reasons.
Okay.
One is what you already mentioned, that it's going to help retain the shape of the shoe itself.
Sure.
Okay, and so if you're, dress shoes are not cheap. You can get cheap dress shoes, and if you only wear dress shoes, a couple times a year, then yeah, just go get some cheap ones. They'll last you a long time. But if you wear dress shoes regularly, hopefully you're wearing them at least once a week when you go to mass, then you're going to want to take care of them because it's almost like an investment if you think about it that way. So it will help them maintain their shape, and you want to get shoe trees that are made of cedar because the cedar will dry out just like in a humidor. The cedar will absorb the moisture from the shoe quickly.
Okay.
So it will help them dry out so that they don't stay moist for a long time. But that I can just tell you that has made, in my own experience, a huge difference in the quality of the shoes that I wear and them staying good, looking well, looking good. I have a pair of shoes now that I've actually had resold because the leather still is great. And it's a lot cheaper to have shoes resold, especially when you're buying nice dress shoes. Not, you can get in $100 pair of dress shoes, but you just don't expect $100 dress shoe to last more than a year of if you're wearing them every other day,
sure,
or so. But that's the same is true with leather dress shoes. Don't wear them every day. You want if you're wearing suits, you need a black outfit. You need black outfits and blue outfits so that you can trade them off every day. Let your shoes dry out.
Okay.
Also, there's some guys at my office who show up in loafers, and while they're in the office, they change their shoes.
Oh, really?
And they leave their shoes at the office, which I think is funny. And I guess like that way you just don't wear them as long, and they don't
need as much attention.
But to me, it's like I'm not putting on loafers to change shoes when I get to the office.
Right.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Absurd.
Yeah. So anyway.
Okay. So
have you ever seen Shoetrees for boots? Do they make those?
I have not seen those, but that doesn't mean anything.
I also have not seen them. I don't know how that. It seems
I'm
like
sure
that would
they
be
do.
difficult to
I'm sure they have them.
operate, to get the Shoetree down in your boots.
Mm-hmm.
They may have them though.
So I'm interested in our topic tonight.
Me too.
You want to segue to it, or
Sure.
is there anything else you want to talk about with?
That is the end. Shoetree is not gonna it's not gonna set you back very much. It's like $20.
Okay. So well worth the investment.
Yeah.
To keep your.
One thing that I do recommend, and not necessary. Some of them, the foot piece that goes in is split into two halves, and they have a spring. Well, they have there's a spring in the heel, and when you put them in, you push it forward, and a piece of metal pushes between those two halves of the toe, and it spreads them out. Okay, and that is going to make sure that the Shoetree fits your width of shoe. Okay, otherwise you got to get pretty specific on the shape of the Shoetree. So not all of them are going to have that. If you can, that is a better product in my opinion, because it's going to really make sure that shoe has some good tension on it, and that it's not going to shrink and deform. So that's the last thing I'd say about a Shoetree.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
So tonight's topic is voting with a well-formed conscience. That's the topic that you wanted to discuss this evening.
Correct.
Is there a way you wanted to start it off, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So first of all,
beginning. You want to start from the beginning?
Yes. Let me say in the very beginning, I do not care what you think. If you at any point throughout this episode feel like I should send them an email telling them that they're wrong, the profundity of how much I don't care cannot be overexpressed. Okay? Send me an email. I don't care.
David at stmichaelradio.com.
I do not care. Okay?
Okay.
It is our attempt today to express the feelings of the church. Okay? We do not seek to endorse, when we will not be endorsing a political party or any political candidates. What I'd like to talk about today is what are some issues, the major issues in selecting good candidates. Because we all have a duty as good citizens. This is an obligation that's really put upon us. In fact, choosing not to vote is considered by the church an extraordinary action. So in order to not voting, if you're not voting out of sloth, that's a sin. It's not a mortal sin necessarily. We're not going to get into judging your own conscience, in each individual case. We're not.
Good. I'm glad.
Obviously, we're not doing that on the Catholic Man Show.
Glad we're not doing that.
But we have an obligation to vote, and so it's something that's talked about a lot, but it's. And
Aquinas even talks about, it's a virtue. Patriotism is a virtue.
Yes, this is part of patriotism, exactly. But the politics is talked about all the time, but it's not talked about from just the basic standpoint.
The problem is that we've decided that both religion and politics are the two things that we don't talk about ever, and
they're the most important things
in that what
in the world.
Isn't what G.K. Chesterton said?
Yeah.
His quote was I
don't know exactly what it was, but it's just like that.
Yeah, it's basically the only two things worth discussing
that's what we should be talking about.
Religion and politics.
Right.
And so for whatever reason, that's because probably just the same way with religion is politics is so divisive.
Right.
And so it's easier to just say, you know what, we're not going to talk about it. So that way we're not, upset with each other or whatever.
Yeah,
instead of dealing with the issues head on.
It's a false peace. People are exchanging what they view as peace, but it's a false peace
that's a good point.
because it's not real.
Let's see. I mean, you're
It's a lack of arguments, but that's not peace.
all you're doing is kicking the can down the road, waiting for it.
Right, and it's going to get worse. Just
Okay.
gets worse.
So when we get back, we'll talk about voting with a well-formed conscience.
Indeed.
We'll be right back.
Look for the quote. You can say the exact quote.
That's okay.
Okay.
The point was made.
El point.
El punto.
That's the point in Spanish.
Basically.
Let's go with that.
All right, let's roll.
Right into it?
Yeah, let's do it. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. We're going to talk about forming a well-formed conscience in voting. We're going to be voting here pretty soon, so it's a good thing to talk about. And I was thinking about this earlier today, Dave, when we were trying to figure out.
Let's be honest. You've been nervous about this episode. You're nervous about me just putting me loose on the airwaves.
I think
you are.
I think
just admit it.
I think all of our listeners can understand my.
You're a little nervous.
My uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Feelings towards
Adam?
this episode with you as a. I know that you're always very precision-like in all of your.
At least I start off that way.
Yeah.
I start off with precision, and then like sometimes.
And then we.
You know.
I hear you.
Sometimes you forget to tighten all the nuts down, and you end up with a. Anyway, that's not a good analogy. A weird analogy. I don't know what I was picturing in my mind.
Not as bad as the eating candy with analogy that I gave with Tim Staples on the show.
Yeah,
that was
I
a pretty.
remember that.
That was a pretty bad analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, the reason why I was talking or thinking about like, okay, why is it important to be talking about voting?
Yeah,
and I was thinking about this as I was unloading wood this afternoon, trying to figure out like why is it important to talk about voting?
Yeah,
and my thought is the reason why it's important to talk about voting, especially even in my household, like, with my wife and when my children are old enough to vote, is because of the first thing that Christ told us, or the thing that Christ told us to do, which was go make disciples of men, baptizing them in all nations, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So the reason why it's important to vote is because government is a proxy for being able to make disciples. Because the government is a way of exercising what the truths are, the reality is, and how society functions together.
Right.
And the more aligned that societies are with truth, which as Catholics we know that truth is a person, is Jesus Christ,
Mm-hmm.
the more that the societies are aligned with He who is, the better functioning the society is.
Right.
Obviously,
right.
because
Exactly.
it is made for. It's interesting because we used to debate in politics. We all used to agree on the end, and we would always debate the means.
Right. And now we don't agree on the ends.
We don't even agree on the
No,
ends.
that's a great point. That's a great point.
We don't even. We are now so far disagreeing on just the ends in and of themselves that we are disrupting and like perverting the sacramental reality of who people are.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
And so that is something that is, when that happens, then that means that as men, as Catholics, we have to stand up and say, okay, if you guys don't know who we are, and I think that's why JP2, St. John Paul II, was so valuable with what he was talking about in the theology of body, because he understood. He lived through communism. He lived through
Right.
World War II. You know, he lived through all of, I mean, barely World War II, but I mean, he lived through all this destruction. He realized like the reason why communism didn't work.
He was there. He was alive during World War II.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying like the reason why it didn't work is because communism in and of itself is set to fail, because you don't understand who the person is. And that's why the theology, he like said, no, I'm going to combat culture because you guys can't even understand who we are.
Right.
And so I'm going to lay this baseline down that here in 50 years, there's going to be people minds blown.
Yeah. So the important thing, and this is when you turn on the news, the problem is they're missing the goal. And the Catholic Church has been putting out documents on politics since before most countries were in existence. Okay? So the aim of the Catholic society is always the common good. This is what we're striving for, the common good. Okay? And so we are not striving for the best economy. We're not striving for the best healthcare system only. What we're striving for is the common good. And when the church says good, it means not only natural goods, yes, natural goods, but supernatural goods as well. So we want to strive to create healthy persons.
Because grace builds on nature.
That's right. So we want to create a healthy natural system so that we can have healthy supernatural systems, a healthy church.
Which is like what I was trying to say in the fact of like, the reason why this is so important is because you have to get this right in order to have the opportunity to build the kingdom of God, to build, to make saints.
Because if you have people that are so poor they can't not work on Sunday, they're not
or
going
you
to
don't have the
become a good
religious
church.
freedom.
Right, exactly. But I mean, if you just let's say you have a terrible economy, everyone is destitute. Going to church on Sunday is, you're trying to put food on the table. You don't know if you're going to eat today. There are other priorities that will just naturally have a way of asserting themselves. Mm-hmm. Okay, whether they're more important or not, hunger will assert itself. You see what I'm saying? So the common good is what we're pursuing. Okay, and so we're not pursuing. So we want to all step back in our own minds, bring ourselves back a little bit, because we're missing the forest for the trees, I think, in almost every political conversation that takes place. Because it's always about, who's about the economy, who's about, whatever, you often hear everybody, first of all, every politician is hope and change, it's always change, as if it's going to be better, or as if it will ever change. If you just look throughout history, it never changes. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is pursue politics at a local level and at a national level, where we're electing and promoting candidates in pursuit of a common good. The biggest, from the Catholic standpoint, the biggest problem, the biggest evil in our society today is abortion. The slaughter of innocent life, wherever it exists, is the biggest evil and the biggest affront to the common good. What is the worst thing for us that a society? What made the Nazis so evil? They had it's a very orderly society,
and economically thriving.
Economically was
Volvo was killing it.
I mean, who knows how long their
economically?
Who knows how long they would have lasted?
Well, they wouldn't have.
Any socialist government. Socialism works great in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and then you run out of other people's
So
money.
Economically, I'm not sure that they had it all. I'm not a historian, but why everybody recognizes they were evil? It's because they were slaughtering innocent people.
Mm-hmm.
Killing innocent people is the greatest evil that exists in the world.
Because it goes back to who we are. If we're made in the image and likeness of God,
right,
which we are, and you kill somebody who's made in the image and likeness of God, that is innocent. That is a intrinsic evil. There's no way you can't get out of that.
Right. So if we're trying to build up a good society, the good, then obviously we need to build up a society that doesn't kill its own society. Okay. So abortion.
It's innocent society. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Innocent society. Yeah. Obviously, the death penalty is an issue that should be taken seriously, but it's not the same as abortion.
And even the USCCB talks about that
right.
in the document.
And I understand there's a lot of people who have strong feelings about the death penalty, and that's fine. The church allows a freedom of thought on abortion. No. I'm sorry, not on abortion. It allows freedom of thought on the death penalty.
Okay.
Yeah. It does not allow freedom of thought on abortion. As a Catholic, you are not permitted to believe that the pro-choice, so-called pro-choice side is correct. you actually don't have that option.
Right, and as men, that should be a given. We're protectors.
Right.
You naturally are built to protect other people, especially the innocent, especially the people who can't defend themselves.
Right.
There's a reason why it's just a natural thing when your child is put into danger, you jump in front of that danger.
Right.
You're naturally supposed to protect. And so as Catholic men, you should take that natural actions and make it supernatural and defend with obviously grace.
Right. Or even if it just stays on a natural level. I mean, you don't need the supernatural to know that parents shouldn't kill their own children.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just saying, like, take the grace that God is, in a sacramental life and make change within your community to where we're not killing innocent people.
Right. So let's just talk about voting for pro-choice politicians.
Okay.
Because
and then we're going to talk about other things as well, correct?
Hopefully. Yes, I would like to.
Okay.
But this really is the biggest issue in politics, not just this election. This is not a new issue. It's been this way for a long time. The pro-choice issue is the biggest issue. And a lot of people will accuse Catholics of being single-issue voters. That's not true. There's just one issue that is more important than all the other issues.
And that doesn't mean that the other
that they're not important. But
that's a fallacy.
That means we need to get... There's a hierarchy of values, and we need to get the most important things right first. And if we're not doing that, then the other things, not that they are not important, they are, but they're not as important, okay? So, let's say there's a candidate who says, I think we should kill everybody over 70. Are you going to vote for that guy? Or that woman? No. Why not? But, the thing is that the people, if we killed everyone over 70, fewer people would be dying than have died of abortion. So, and not to say that, we're not adding up total value of lives. That's not what we're doing. One single innocent death is unacceptable. Okay? So we need to just make sure that we're putting the right value on things. So the abortion issue is the most important. Mm-hmm. So, but it's when you get into it, people will often have, complicated issues. Well, what about all these other things? So let's dive deeper a little bit into this one issue.
I have a feeling this is going to be past our radio
on the other side of the break.
Could well.
Yes, there will be more to talk about, I'm sure.
Okay, we'll be right back. I do say that this rye is probably my favorite rye that I've ever had.
I agree.
It's a good rye,
but
it's just
I think I've only
not
had
a whiskey that I would
it's
like.
It's only the third rye I've had.
What are the other two?
Does teachers make a rye?
No.
Okay,
or at least not that I'm aware of.
Okay, it's probably not then. But Ken Sabbath had one that was like fairly. It was affordable and was okay.
We had the Yippee-Ki-Yay as well.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
That's the one that we had.
That's a rye?
Uh-huh. Yippee-Ki-Yay.
Okay.
I don't think it has a short finish.
Really? It ends quick for me.
Do you swish it over your mouth?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the pipe tobacco that's like...
There's no... All right. Well, let's keep rolling.
Should we make a plug to vote in your local elections?
Yes, I'm going to talk about that for sure.
Can we talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah, local is going to be important. But obviously local is important, but at this point local is extremely important, and that's the reason why we're in the mess that we're in, is because people didn't take local elections seriously or make that important. Yeah. And now we have people who are representing our community that don't necessarily hold the values that our community holds.
That is certainly a problem. Yeah.
So that's a problem, but the big issues right now are obviously going to be what's coming up in November.
Right.
All right.
Ooh, Ryan, here's to you, bud. This one's yours.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Last one.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan. We're talking about voting.
Dude, I almost interrupted you. I almost brought us in.
Did you?
That would have broken tradition, which is not something...
I've broken that tradition a couple times on accident.
Yeah. It's not something...
It's okay. You know what? As far as as often as we do it, usually it goes just fine.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're talking about voting.
Right.
And we're right now we're talking about voting for a pro-choice candidate as a Catholic, as a person. This really, there's nothing that makes these rules apply to Catholics alone. These are just the rules. Like, as a human person, the rules are the same for you. You have an obligation, whether you recognize it or not, to vote in accordance with reality. Okay?
And that's why it's so important to make sure that your conscience
is well formed.
Because if your conscience is not well formed, what happens? You fall into the how do I feel? What are my emotions?
Right, a distorted view of reality.
What do I want?
Right, and your opinions and your feelings, I'm glad you said this, are different from your conscience.
And your will.
Right, so just because you like an issue the most doesn't mean it's the most important. Okay, because once again, we're in pursuit of the common good. Which is better, for everyone to be rich or for everyone to have a life? Mm-hmm. You know, the fact that people are being killed, life is the preeminent right and holds precedent over all other rights, because if one does not have the right to life, then all the other rights don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So the right to life is the most important. That's why Catholics put so much emphasis on it. But it's not just for Catholics. Everyone should put emphasis on it.
Our Constitution says that here in America,
right,
we hold
life,
that as evident,
liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
And the thing.
Right, and the thing. You know the thing.
Anyway, so what if somebody says, okay, I get it. Like I'm a pro-life guy, and I agree with you. However, the candidate that I'm wanting to vote for is maybe not pro-life, maybe pro-choice, but he helps with a lot of other issues outside of the abortion industry. Maybe his ideas are going to be help with our economy, help with our health care, help with immigration, help with whatever XYZ. So I'm not going to vote for this guy because he supports abortion, but I'm going to vote for him because of these other factors.
Okay, so what the church says is that if a Catholic votes for a pro-choice candidate because they're pro-choice, that you are committing a grave mortal sin.
Or at least a grave sin.
It's a grave sin, and now that you've heard me say it, it's a mortal sin. You know now. So you no longer can say, "Oh, I didn't know that was a mortal sin."
Ignorance isn't allowed.
Is no longer right. If you vote for a pro-choice candidate because they're pro-choice, if you yourself are pro-choice, then you have put your soul in jeopardy. Your eternal rest in heaven might be forfeit because of it. The church is so strong on this because you have chosen that it's fine to kill people. Okay, so in the church says, if you vote for a candidate because he's pro-choice, you're committing grave sin. However, if you choose to vote for a candidate, it's like, well, that's not why I'm voting for him. I'm not pro-choice. I don't like that he's pro-choice, but I'm voting for him for these other reasons. In theory, this is possible, but only in theory. So here's a quote from Cardinal Ratzinger on this. He says, when a Catholic does not share a candidate's stand in favor of abortion and or euthanasia, or you could substitute any other intrinsic evil, but votes for that candidate for other reasons, it is considered a remote material cooperation. So it's not formal cooperation with evil. It's a remote material cooperation. It's still material, but it's remote. So this would not be considered a mortal sin. He says, which can be permitted in the presence of proportionate reasons.
The kicker is the very end.
It can be permitted in the presence of proportionate reasons. Okay, and the proportionate reasons, this is like the part that gets that gets left out all the time, sort of like Jesus when he's talking to Mary Magdalene, and he says, neither do I condemn you. And then everyone leaves off the fact that he says, go and sin no more, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, see, who am I to judge?
Right.
Okay, so people leave off the proportionate reason. Even the USCCB, if you go to their website, you will not see the presence of proportionate reasons, because they say what is essentially the same thing, that you can do it if you're not voting for them because they're pro-choice, then it's possible. But they don't say this part that you need to have proportionate reasons, because if somebody wants to kill people, like let's say substitute abortion with this guy wants to go around killing people on Medicaid because it's going to save the country so much money. Like, why would we pay billions of dollars for these people? We could just kill them. That's real cheap. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's say you have a candidate who's proposing that, and you might think that's ridiculous. Stuff like this has been proposed in other countries legitimately.
Yeah, like history.
Yeah. Okay, so you would never vote for that candidate, right? Obviously, it doesn't matter how great his economic policy is or how great any other policy of his is, because he wants to murder people.
Right.
That obviously, what could possibly be proportionate? Mm-hmm. What could your proportionate reasons be to vote for that guy?
Right.
You know what I mean?
So the USCCB talks about this. I'll link it in our show notes so that way people can read it. But on number 34 of USCCB, it says, a Catholic cannot vote for a candidate who favors a policy promoting an intrinsic evil act, such as abortion, euthanasia, assisted suicide, deliberately subjecting workers or the poor to subhuman living conditions, redefining marriage in ways that violate its essential meaning, or racist behavior, if the voter's intent is to support that position, if the intent is to support that position.
Right, you can't vote for them.
You can't vote for him. Now, it says, in such case, a Catholic would be guilty of formal cooperation of grave evil. At the same time, a voter should not use a candidate's opposition to an intrinsic evil to justify indifference or inattentiveness to other important moral issues involving human life and dignity.
Right. And see, that last line is so confusing because it makes it seem like, it makes it seem like all the other issues are on an equal playing field with the life issue.
No,
but what they're saying, I think, is that, yes, you have to choose the pro-life candidate, but don't let them. You still need to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Don't let them get away with murder,
quote unquote,
pun intended, just because
bad pun.
Just because they're pro-life,
right?
But the way it makes it seem is that, you can't do it, but also you need to make sure to pay attention to this other stuff. So go ahead and vote for the pro-choice candidate because of all these other reasons. It comes off that way. And I don't know. I think it's a little frustrating for me as a Catholic that the bishops couldn't put together a more coherent, some more coherent guidance, especially since they update this every 4 years. They update it for every election cycle. So anyway, let's say you have let's say you have an election where all of your choices are pro-choice. What if every candidate is pro-choice? In that case, the church says you have no option. Once again, it says you could take the extraordinary step of not voting in that situation, but it will also permit you to vote for one of the candidates that you believe will advance the pro-abortion side the least. And this could be one of those situations where you might have proportionate reasons. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, they're both pro-choice. Maybe this guy's a little bit less pro-choice. I don't know. But maybe the guy who's more pro-choice is better on some of these other issues. So that could be a situation where you have proportionate reasons to vote for a slightly more pro-choice candidate. Because, honestly, they're both pro-choice. They're both going to vote for all the pro-choice bills. Mm-hmm. At some point, for a legislator, it's like pass-fail. You're either going to vote yes or you're going to vote no on a bill. Mm-hmm. Now, it's difficult for the voter because you don't know what the bill will say and, there's so much unknown. But that would be a situation where the church would allow, you're not voting for them because they're pro-choice. It's just your only option.
And I feel for people who are wanting to, a lot of the thing is saying like, we're trying to help the poor.
Right.
We want to help the poor. And I feel for that position of maybe the person that I want to vote for is pro-abortion, but he really wants to help the poor.
Right.
And I think that the people who have that thought are coming from a really good place, because as Christians we are commanded to help the poor.
Yeah.
Jesus didn't give us an out. He said he made it certain that we have to take care of the poor.
Right.
And so I think that is a noble, and I think that is something that is worth praising, because that's what
Absolutely.
Jesus is calling us to do.
We should expect our public servants to serve the poor.
To serve the poor. Now, there's a prudential judgment of how much the government should be involved to make that happen.
Yeah, but let's just leave that out.
And I'm going to leave that out of it. But I think that, again, it goes back to, even if that's the case, like even if that's where your heart is, which that's a good spot where your heart could be. If the person is wanting to kill people before they even
take that same candidate and say he wants to kill people who are 70 and older. Are you still going to he might want to help the poor, but he wants to kill people. And once again, who is more poor than the unborn? I mean, if you're worried about why is it that we want to help the poor? Because they are in need of our help.
They're the most vulnerable.
They're more vulnerable. Who is more vulnerable? Who is more poor than the unborn? So, if you have this heart to help the poor, that's great. But you're not applying it broadly if you're willing to give a pass on abortion.
Right.
We cannot, as Catholics, allow a culture of death to exist in our country. We must do everything that we can to build up a culture of life, from our local elections to our national elections. If you vote for a pro-choice candidate, then you must honestly consider your own conscience and whether or not you want to be holy.
We'll continue this conversation probably on the podcast, definitely on our YouTube channel. We're drinking a little bit of WhistlePig. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Cheers. That was weird.
I was going to make you cheers over here, and then you
and
kept your glass and was like, well, I'm not going to give you a drink.
It just got awkward.
Yeah.
It's all right. That's part of it. No, I think that, I think that's the key is like if you don't, that's why I don't like the seamless garment argument. And I know that there's a lot of people who are good-willed, holy people who think that that's a good idea.
Right.
And I'm not here to, judge your intentions. I'm sorry?
What is a seamless argument?
Oh, the seamless garment argument is almost like the idea of like the pro-life movement involves every single aspect of life in general.
And that you can't give the abortion issue any more significance than any other issue on life, and that would include the poor. That would include healthcare. You can't say it's more important. Yeah. The abortion issue is more important than free healthcare.
And that's why I have an issue. I don't agree, and I think that was brought up by Cardinal Bernardine from Chicago back. I'm not sure in the 80s or 70s or 80s or something like that. He brought up that argument, and I just cannot subscribe to that, because it's like having a dam, and there's like a massive hole in the dam that all this water's coming out, and then there's a bunch of other holes in the dam where there's a little bit of water coming out, or maybe even a good amount of water coming out. And it's not like we don't want to fix all of it. The dam is made to keep water from flowing out. It's made to not let water go through. And so even a small amount,
even a pinprick with water shooting out,
is not good.
We should fix that.
We need to fix it. But you're not going to fix the pinhole before you have a 5-foot diameter hole in the dam. And so that's why I can't get on board with the seamless garment argument. I can't. It has nothing to do with not wanting to help the poor. It has nothing to do with how healthcare should be, or immigration, or anything else. I think all those issues are very important, and I think that you need to be. That's why it's so important to have a well-formed conscience. And I think that those are prudential matters that you can have good, solid conversations about. And I think that's why the Aristotle and Plato and all these guys, they understood that these are worthy conversations to have.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to figure out what is the common good, what is best for the common good. And these are worthy discussions. But what's not best for the common good is obviously killing innocent people, specifically innocent people who are the most vulnerable, whether it be a 90-year-old person or somebody who's unborn.
Right.
And so I'm all in favor for having good conversation, and you even influencing me on how I would feel on healthcare, on how I would feel on how much the government should help the poor or not help the poor.
Right.
I think that it's important as Christians to remember that we are called to help the poor, and so if we were all doing our part, including Adam Minahan, if I was doing more of my part, then maybe we wouldn't have to have as much help from the government. But what I can't get on board with is you bypassing the initial aspect of killing unborn.
Right. Yeah. So, for instance, let's step away from abortion. Let's take healthcare. Both sides agree that healthcare is a good to be pursued by the government. That the government has some role in pursuing a good healthcare system. Okay. The Democrats and the Republicans, independents, all have different ideas about what is the best way to achieve that end. But we all agree that it is an end to be pursued. In the abortion debate, you have one side that says, no, we shouldn't pursue health care. The people who are pro-choice says, no, we should not pursue that end.
Right.
If people are sick, we should kill them. If we want to.
Well, and that's why I said at the beginning.
And so that's the big difference, is that you can't it's fine to argue over and have legitimate preferences over what's the best means to the end. But we have to agree that health is something to be pursued. Life is something to be protected. And if you don't agree with that, then none of your other things, so if you don't agree that we should defend the lives of children, then there's something wrong with the way your moral compass is off, or there's something wrong with your intellect. And it's a sign that you shouldn't be in charge of stuff, okay? Namely, the country. Because the fact that you think it's okay for a mother and a father to kill their children in abortion means that you're not seeing morally straight. And you shouldn't be in charge of the country in any capacity. You should have no influence because you don't know how to pursue the common good. Obviously, parents shouldn't kill their children.
Something that we discussed